Hi.
Welcome back to the podcast.
Here.
I think I'm equally tired and hyper, so it's gonna get interesting. You know
Oh
what I mean?
my.
These girls know that I can be like really bouncing off the walls and get a little weird. So we'll just see where this podcast leads us, because here we are at 10:40 p.m.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's gonna be great. And I need the questions, and I don't know your password, so can you?
That's okay.
Sorry,
I was gonna say it, but I don't know if I want to say it on the podcast.
Just in case.
To everyone know my password.
Well, I hope everyone is doing well. You girls here in the room, the ones who are listening, the ones who are watching. I feel like it's been a while since we've been here, but as always, it's because we've filmed a little bit in advance. So I think the last thing you guys saw was our Cain and Abel.
No, ChatGPT.
Oh, jeez, the ChatGPT episode.
It was ChatGPT. Yeah.
Well, I hope you watched or listened. I hope you enjoyed. But today we're going to talk about something a little bit different than ChatGPT. Surely, it's because your low power mode is on.
It's because I'm at 35%.
35%.
I'll turn it off.
Yeah, so I'm sure ChatGPT would have something to say about this, but you know what? We're going to leave.
ChatGPT actually has a lot to say.
Honestly.
Have you ever talked to ChatGPT? I do it. I've done it once.
What do you mean?
I had a conversation with him.
Oh, yeah?
You just ask questions?
Yeah, like I was like, hey, ChatGPT, how are you? And he was like, good. Like, how are you? Also because I told him my name. So now it's like, good, Abby. It's so great to hear from you, Abby.
So you have the app?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I downloaded it when you said that you got the app.
It's great.
And I was like, yeah, like it was okay. Like it had a bit of like a hard start or something, but the ending was good. And then he was like, yeah, a lot of days can. Sorry, I don't know why I'm sharing this, but anyway, ChatGPT just really like he has a lot of like interesting things to say.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm pro ChatGPT.
Mm.
Not gonna lie. Sorry to like. I know that you guys are together, so then it doesn't come off so strong. You know? I don't know. On one hand, I have heard a lot of stories of how like artificial intelligence is being used to bring like destruction in a lot of ways that I don't really want to get into here in the podcast, because we could be here a while with like a huge rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily want to, but I have like heard a lot of stories about that. And I'm no conspiracy theorist. I can actually be a little bit of a conspiracy theorist. But I watched a TikTok or an Instagram reel about some comparisons, you know, with ChatGPT or AI and the Mark of the Beast.
Madison.
Okay, grandma.
Yeah, okay, Facebook mom.
Okay. The only
Your
thing
grandma
I'm
would be
say,
so proud of you. Right now.
yeah, she really would be. Shout out to Mima. No, it's just like it says something in the Bible about how like something about the Mark of the Beast will like give you the capacity to not seek your own information or like something like that. I don't really remember what she was saying, but like that's so relevant. Like the other day I was like, oh, I want to start this new project with Illuminate Soho, which is another ministry that I run. And I was like, what should I name it? ChatGPT. I want to name this project that I'm doing, and it's related to like refuge and comfort. Like give me names. And like the capacity to be creative, you don't have to have it if you have ChatGPT.
No,
Yeah,
for sure.
that is true.
So it can like really make us dumb. You know what I mean?
For sure.
100%, yeah. I
If
mean, it's
used the
also
wrong way.
taking a lot of like jobs, and like the whole point is to replace
Yeah.
people. So
Look, we've had 2 podcasts that have been consumed by ChatGPT by accident.
by accident, it's
Not
so
even
true.
intentional. That's wild. Okay, no more.
We won't speak his name.
Or rebuke the mark of
Don't
the beast.
speak of of them in this place, you know? Okay, anyway.
That's
no,
not at all.
So let's segue back.
That's what it's about.
No, it's not at all what this is about. We just always find some little rabbit hole to go down in the beginning. Actually, what we wanted to talk about today was our lovely Estelle's idea, who's not featured here currently, but she's in the room. She's behind the scenes, as always.
She waved. She
waved
waved
to the
behind the
audience.
camera.
She's with us. And I asked her, like, oh, I wonder what we should talk about in the podcast. And she was like, what about seasons? And I was like, yes, you know? It was great. So we talked a little bit about it. But I think we often, like, in Christian context, talk about seasons and, like, what season are you in?
Yeah.
And, like also seasons are a part of life. Like we live them inevitably in the world, like in a physical way. Like they come and they go and they change and whatever.
Yeah.
So I think like also spiritual seasons or whatever are also inevitable. But I don't know, I thought it could be cool to talk about like what those seasons mean. We know Ecclesiastes talks about how there's like a time for everything. It's important to know the season that you're in. We were just reading the Bible verse before we came onto the podcast, and it's literally like 8 verses of a time for, a time for, a time for, a time, like so many different things. So we were thinking of talking about seasons, and like what that means, what that looks like, how to be in the season that you are. So I have some questions for us to keep us rolling, so we don't get in any rabbit holes of ChatGPT.
You said his name.
Dang it.
I rebuke you.
He who shall not be named has been named.
You have to
I
be
like
vigilant.
ChatGPT.
You have to be alert. I know.
Maybe this is gonna come back and bite me in the butt when he like takes over the world or something, or maybe he'll save me because
you'll be like,
Who's your
Abby was
savior?
a faithful
okay,
one.
well, no. Save wasn't a good word choice, but it's like, but I don't know. I anyway, we don't have to talk about that. I have some points for ChatGPT. I think he's
always want to make their way back into the conversation. You give them like an inch and they take a mile. You know who does that? Strongholds.
Boy.
No, I'm joking. I'm in such a weird mood. Let's keep going.
Yeah, okay.
So you had your questions.
Yeah.
My first question is, okay, and I think it's in Ecclesiastes. It says, no, it might be somewhere else. Bible scholars of the world, relax.
Romans is not the verse that you looked up?
No, that's for later.
Oh, sorry.
Abby. No, but there's a verse somewhere that says like it's really important to know what season you're in. Like be aware of the season you're in. Why do you guys think it's important to be aware of the season that you're in? Like why would the Bible speak about that? Does it, like, I guess in biblical times when it came to like physical seasons, it was important to know if, I don't know, you needed to harvest your crops or you needed to plant seeds, like in terms of how they also like had sustenance. That was important, but that's not really how it is for us anymore. So why would that be relevant now?
Well, I mean, in one way, it's still kind of like that because everything like has a knock-on effect on something else, you know? So obviously when you're talking about like things like crops and whatnot, like a while ago, I remember that the guy who came to clean our coffee machine, he at the cafe that we run called Killer Common Ground Way.
Follow us on Instagram.
Yep. He came and cleaned the coffee machine, and then he was talking to me about milk and how it's so different and how it changes and stuff. And obviously, like, oh, okay, like it's for sure it changes. But he was like, but you're gonna notice like the extreme changes because like the cow's milk produces something completely different, like depending on like the rain of the season, and that affects the grass that they eat, you know, and so that will definitely affect the fat consistency of the milk, which would make the frothiness of your milk. And he just really went down into it, you know. But he was like, it's really important that you're aware of that because then you also know how to if you want to keep like your level of frothing your milk at like a high, that you can. Yeah, I was like, wow, this is intense. Yeah. Okay, all of that to say that like no, but like even with something like that, like you've got those, not just the seasons, but like also the transition of the seasons as well, which is also very important to know because like, for example, when we've got autumn, you know that afterwards comes winter. So I think it is really important to be aware because then that way you know what to prepare for, like for what's coming, not just what you're going through as well. Because I think many times like when we're looking at the season that we're in, we look at how best to prepare ourselves for that moment in that season, right? I'm in a season of like drought, so okay, like let's like reserve water, you know. But I think it's important also to have like more of a vision towards like, okay, like what about that transition? How can I prepare myself also for what is going to come after? I think sometimes we know and sometimes we don't know. Like obviously with the actual seasons of the year, you do know, but maybe with other seasons you don't know. But I think it also like that importance of like, I don't know what season is coming next, and leaning to God to ask for also how to prepare for what is coming and not just be in the like in the now. Not that it's wrong to be in the now. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah. But anyways,
Yeah.
milk.
I get what you mean. I think there's also like a level, I don't know, if I think of my life and I think of times where it's like, I don't know what season I'm in, and then I don't know, I receive a word or I like in discipleship or something, and it's like I can see this, or I don't know, like somehow I find like clarity in what season I'm in. I feel like that like genuinely helps you so much to be able to be in the present, you know? Sorry, like I'm not trying to come against what you just said. Like I completely agree with you that it does help you also prepare for what's next too.
Yeah.
That's a very valid point. But I think it really helps you be grounded in where you are
Yeah.
in this current time, because it's so easy, if we're talking about seasons, to be like, I don't want to be in this season.
Yeah.
I feel like that all the time.
100%. Yeah.
I feel like 80% of my seasons I'm like, I hate this. And
Yeah.
then there's like that 20% that's like, oh, this is okay.
You only really like know the seasons like when you're looking back and you're like, oh yeah,
Yes.
that season was
Yeah,
good.
That's another thing,
you know,
too.
but
That's
like,
so true. But when you do know the season that you're in, when you're in it, it's really helpful.
Yeah.
I feel like it
Yeah, yeah.
helps you like also, I don't know, connect with where you are.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense. It's kind of like here a little bit, but I don't know. If I look back on times where I'm like, oh, okay, I see that God is working in this. I don't know. Also to pursue those things, you know, not just to like let them slip and
Yeah.
have that happen where then you look back and you're like, oh shoot,
yeah.
I should have made more of that, you know, or I wish I would have like made more of that opportunity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think also because like it's not the only thing, but like it really affects your perspective, you know, and also like how you perceive many things, you know, like if I'm going through a season of also like loss and whatever, then I'm also probably going to struggle a lot with like lack of love or like loneliness or depression or whatever, you know. So I think it's so important because then we also not just understand like the perspective, but we also understand what we lack or what we are more prone to, you know, and therefore like, I don't know, always like what's on the top of my mind is like, okay, what are the greatest 2 commandments, you know, like love God and love people. Okay, but in this season, how am I doing that? Or how am I unable to do that because of what's affecting me, you know, or like, and if I'm aware that, I don't know, I'm going through a season of drought, that's what is becoming that filter, you know, so
Yeah.
it's difficult.
Yeah, I think I would agree with both of you and the things that you said. And I think also the like answer to this is so much more than like answer A and that's it, you know, like it's
100%.
important for this. But I think like, at least for me, it's so easy for me to do life in autopilot, like where I don't even think about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I just am doing it and I'm in my routine, and like I half the time don't remember the day before. I have a conversation with my friend that we have like a catch up every week, and she'll be like, how was your weekend? Got no clue. Like don't remember, don't have any clue what I did, because I'm just sort of like running through the motion sometimes. And in one way it's because I'm in a time of my life that is more busy and more like doing different things. So I don't want to say that that's always a bad thing. But I do think that there's a part of it that I just get really like fixated on like being in the rhythm of what I'm doing. And I think, I don't know, if I'm not aware of the season that I'm in that moment, then I'm not present, and it means that I'm not faithful to what God is doing in that time, in that moment, which also means that if God is wanting to produce something in me that can be a fruit in the next season, I won't, I'm not faithful to do it. You know what I mean? So I think they're like so connected. What you guys are saying is like being present and like being connected with what God is doing now. Also, so that what he has to come later is like ready to be developed in a good way. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to come immaturely, or it doesn't come underdeveloped. It's like it was developed in what you're saying to produce what you were saying in the beginning. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know, for me it's like so important that we know which season we're in, but it's so difficult to figure out what it is.
It's really hard,
It's so hard.
Like Julie said, it's so much easier to look back and be like, oh, that was a real season of pruning, or that was a real season of whatever thing. But when you're in it, it's like, it feels so cloudy. Always feels really cloudy. Or can tend to anyway.
What is the way that you guys figure out what season you're in? How do you, like, what are some practical things or spiritual things?
Wow.
Yeah, it's a hard question. I think for me,
Hey
with
girl.
Madison sitting beside me, my discipler. Like discipleship helps me a lot, I think, in that. Like having someone else from an outside perspective be like, I can see this in your life right now. Because often, like, we're so caught, even in the autopilot too, you know, like you're saying, like we're so caught here that we don't see like here or here or here or from like different perspective, like you were saying too. So I think having someone else also like to talk out those things with helps. And then you start seeing also patterns, you know, maybe just processing in general, I guess, however that works for you. I think like talking out things helps me. But I've also started like journaling recently, and that's also been really helpful, actually. It's like, wow, now I understand why people do this all the time. Because it really like it's crazy like how much you think that you don't even know. It's wild. It's like really crazy how many thoughts you have during the day. And then I start writing and I'm like, you know? Anyways, that's kind of a sidebar, but it like kind of connects into like being like aware of where you are, you know? I don't know if that really answers the question, but that's kind of how I would say like that helps me. Yeah. In case someone is like, oh, I don't really know what season I'm in. Like, I don't know, just start talking it out. Yeah. Like, I don't know, seeing like patterns as well. Like patterns really help, you know? Yeah. Like specific struggles maybe that you're like are keep coming up or I don't know. Or even like victories also, like you're seeing a lot of, I don't know, generosity in your life. Like, you know what I mean? Like things that maybe are a pattern. Yeah. That's what I would say.
No, for sure. I think, like 100% always, like discipleship is there. But I think relationships in general, like I think how my relationships are doing and how I'm relating with people for me, like also shows like where I am, you know?
That's
like,
really true.
And I think for sure, like a lot of that has to do with like me and not necessarily like the season that God wants to take me in. Right. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like maybe there's a season that I'm going through, but it's because I'm unwilling to do what God is telling me to do. And God wants to take me into a season of pruning, but I don't really want to, you know. And so I'm going through a struggle bus on this side. So just really because, so just because I'm...
It's like, true. We're not always in the season necessarily that God wants us to be in.
No, exactly. You know? Yeah. So like, that's why, like, sure, there is that aspect of discipleship, but how I'm relating with people and how, like, my relationships are thriving or not thriving just also shows me a lot of, like, where I'm placed, where I'm standing, who's leading my boat, who's taking control, like, who, like, when, again, like that love level or like thermometer, like where that is coming from, what is actually operating. In many ways, like I think I was talking to you maybe last year at some point, saying that like it was she's like, I don't know where this is gonna go.
I don't remember what I did for my weekend, so I won't remember this.
No, but we were talking about like friendships in general, and one of the things I remember saying was that like I'm at a point in life also where I kind of just don't want to. I really want to invest in so many relationships, but I also don't want to try, you know. And I think for sure maybe it's affected by like burnout. It's affected by different situations. In my case, perhaps it's affected a lot more also because I was brought up in an atmosphere where like I met so many people, and like it was like a recycling that was really fast of like going deep with people and then, you know, coming and going. And so there's also a pattern that's been built into my life of like also not going out of my way and making effort to like deepen relationships. But at the same time there is like this defense mechanism of like protecting myself to not go deeper. But I also, like at the beginning of this year, I was away and I was so nourished and like refueled by just spending time with people that I hadn't spent time with in a long time, and just friends who like really just cared and like loved and poured more than just like silly conversations or like great times, but that like really poured like just Jesus in different ways. And like that just made me see how like selfish I was in like last year, and like just being stuck in like the fact that like I didn't want to, you know. And again, it wasn't because of a season that God was taking me in. It was more of like a season of like where I was putting myself and the decisions I was basically making to like lead me to that point. But this is not like in relation to that, but still to the topic. I don't know about you guys, but something that really bugs me, at least right now, I don't know if it's like this new generation or like to nowadays or whatever, but the fact that we talk so openly about our seasons to the point where like it's also like our excuse, you know, it's almost like our pass go, you know, like, or like it's my
like
free
the
pass.
new personality test.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, because of the season that I'm going through right now, you know, and like we just kind of make it part of like our little bio, you know.
I think something that I love that I see very often is like, because I'm a certain age and I'm single, I'm therefore in a season of waiting.
Yeah.
Like
okay.
it equals the same thing.
Yeah.
But I'm single and I'm not in a season of waiting.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I'm not waiting for my husband or waiting for anything.
Yeah.
I'm living my dang life.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like, so I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, we put labels on things according to what we think and what
Yeah.
we see.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, but because I also think that people use it as a way of also kind of like creating a stance of like, up to this point, you're allowed to also invest in my life or talk into my life, you know, because I'm in a season of this, or like, this is the kind of season that I'm in, and like, I'm acknowledging this. So therefore you can't speak to me. Or maybe the other way of like, this is the season that I'm in. What do you think? You know, but like, again, it comes very much like, I've already sort of placed myself in this, you know. And I think there's two things that really bug me about that. And one is like more, I think, just the fact that like it's sometimes this like pushing you away. And I think also like, I don't know why the aspect of seasons is now something, again, that has to be in our bio, that like it almost like makes us, it brings you, I don't know, we were talking about like how like ChatGPT, sorry to bring it back.
See what I mean?
But we were talking about how
listening.
it like it's removing creativity, you know? And I think that there's a lot of Christian terms or Christian things that we are kind of like living under, where it's also removing that creativity of like also like being in the new of God, you know? And because we're like just kind of following a trend in a sense, you know? Like, do you really know what season you're in? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, or like
not to second guess, but you know,
No, I get it. Or like, my season changes depending on my emotions. Because
Yeah.
we're a society that moves a lot by what we feel. You
Yeah.
know, so it's like, I'm in a season of, like, I'm in a season of like, of stillness and like somberness because I'm just sort of feeling sad these days. And it's like, but one, is that what God said? But also two, like, well, like sort of who told you? And how did you get to that point? And is that healthy?
Yeah.
You know? I think you were saying, one of you was saying about perspective. And I think that is one of the challenges, is that like, I think this whole like desire to define your season is also coming from a place of control.
yeah.
And wanting like to know what I'm doing and where I'm at and defend it and be like, no, because I'm in a season of this. But if it's based in my perspective, then it also is like really trapping. It's really trapping, and it blocks out what God is saying. It blocks out counsel and wisdom and discipleship. But also it hinders everything. It's actually like a place of death in some ways, you know? Not saying that if you're a person who has your season in your bio, you should be ashamed. Like, that's not what I mean.
Yeah.
But I just think like when we're limited to our seasons being connected to our emotions or connected to our circumstances as well,
Yeah.
because people put seasons according to circumstances. Like,
Yeah.
I got rejected from uni, so now I'm in a season of mourning. Why? I got rejected from uni and God brought me to England, and I built a life that I'm in love with, you know? Like it could have been a season of mourning, or it was a season of change. It was a season of transformation. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think that's the challenge, is when our season is defined by what we want, what we think, what we feel, and our circumstances. Is like, those are not things that should be defining my season.
I think
You
we
know?
need to differentiate the fact that a season isn't a state, but the way that I think we dialogue it is as if though it's a state.
Yeah.
But a
true.
state is actually just like something that is consistent. But a season is something that is changing. So whether it's changing slowly or fast, like it doesn't matter, but it's still changing. But a state, like, you know, and I think many times like we say it like, I'm in a season of mourning, of like almost like this is like how I'm gonna be for the next whatever. But actually, like, are we seeking for change? Because if you're in a season, there needs to be some sort of change. You know, like and in that change there might be pruning, there might be all these different things and stuff. But I think in our dialogue, definitely we need to change like our culture of how we speak about it, in my opinion.
That's true. Makes sense. Well, we looked at like how to not define your season. And I think what you were saying, I was about journaling and like being connected with yourself. Not like in a I define my season way, but like, so what am I processing?
Yeah.
Like what is happening in my soul and in my internal life? I think that's really important. I feel really grateful because I feel like two things. One, at the beginning of every year, I ask God for like words of the year. So it helps me when like some things happen, or I don't know. Also, I feel really grateful because I feel like God will bring up the same thing over and over. And I'm like, you're trying to get my attention about something, you know? Like, for example, one of my like words over the year is from Isaiah, where it says like there will be security in your times and like salvation and knowledge and something, and then it says, and the fear of the Lord will be your treasure, or something like this. But it talks a lot about wisdom and different things. And that was a word that God spoke to me. And then for this other charity that I work for, that was like the word for our team over that year, the exact same word, which happened last year too, which was really cool. And so we've been talking a lot about this year being the year of the wise. And then we had a teaching last night for our staff team, and our this woman who's an amazing prophet came and spoke with us, and she said, you're in a season of wisdom, you know? And I'm like, got it, God, thank you so much. Like, I feel really grateful because actually when I pay attention, God makes things clear.
Yeah.
Like he finds a way to communicate with us. And sometimes it's true, we need to press in and journal and like be intentional in that. And I think there is like that effort of me going and seeking God 100%. But I'm also really thankful for a God who works outside my boxes to like show me different things about himself or about my season. So I think it's really, really good. What, like how, no, we already asked that question. This is something we kind of talked about a little bit already, but let's just jump in a little bit further. What happens if we don't really like the season that we're in?
We die.
And like, how do we manage that? Like, I don't know. I guess for me, it's like a lot of times I don't know what season I'm in, or I don't know what that means. Like a year of the wise or a season of wisdom. What the heck does that mean? Sounds like really nice. And it's like, good word. And this woman explains it and it's like, yes. And in the Zoom with her, I'm like, wow, I get it. And now I'm sitting here and I'm like, I don't really get it. You know? But I think, all I think about is like putting one foot in front of the other, like not only every day, but in different circumstances throughout my day. It's like, okay, how am I doing with this? Like, I don't know. It's like one step at a time. Sometimes I can't see the whole path, but I can at least see my feet and like how they move in front of me, you know? So what happens when it's difficult? Like there's storms, there's like, I don't know, we're in a flash flood, we're in tornadoes, and you can't even see your feet. Like, how do we walk through seasons that we don't want to be in? Maybe you have experience in this. Maybe you don't. Don't know.
I don't know.
I've been in many
both of you have been in seasons like this, and me too.
Yeah. Where it just is awful. Had many. I don't know. I think in some ways, not like, this is kind of like a facet of this question, so not completely answering it, if that makes sense.
Abby.
Sorry. I think like, I don't know, what came to mind when we first started talking about this is like, I was really just picturing like physical seasons, like the seasons of the year, you know, like spring, summer, winter, fall, whatever.
Winter, spring, summer,
fall.
All you gotta do. You don't know the song? No, I do.
And I'll be there.
Yes, I will.
Oh, where
you gotta no.
Oh, no.
That was
song.
Wow.
That is a great song.
Going back to my point, swear this happens in every so
It does.
where I try to explain a point and I get interrupted.
You're a catalyst. Okay?
By Madison.
You are
Yeah.
you're a catalyst. You inspire me.
Oh, thanks. What do you mean? To sing?
Like, I don't know, you just bring something out of me.
Oh,
so
that's
it just
cute.
comes
Okay,
out.
I'll take it.
Kiss
And
us.
then this happens. So I don't remember what I was saying.
You were thinking of physical seasons.
I was thinking
winters,
of physical season, yes.
summer.
and fall, yeah. And how like that's why it doesn't really like I don't fully agree with the statement that I'm gonna say. Okay, but like hear my heart.
Controversial.
Okay, because I completely agree that there are seasons that just are awful.
Yeah.
Like I've been
100%.
through them.
Yeah.
Last year was awful. I was in a very long season of just awfulness. And somehow, in some way, God was like just at one point, it was like this real turning point. And I can't even really explain how I got out of it. And it just all of a sudden I was in a different season. Anyways, so that's why I can't really fully explain. I think unfortunately some things are just very spiritual, and it's sometimes hard for us also to like really wrap our heads around. At least I feel like that. Maybe other people are more mature or smarter than I am. So I fully agree that there are times where like the storm is so strong that you can't even see your feet, and at that point, I don't know, man, just pray. But I think in some ways there are like good and bad in every season, you know? And I don't know. That's why when we're thinking about winter, spring, summer, fall,
Whoa,
or what it was.
her, man. That was good.
Was all right.
More or less.
Because if we're talking about the season that we're in right now, physically, as in summer, I hate it. I
Oh.
hate summer. Every year it rolls around. Every year this happens where I'm like, oh, summer, oh, the sun, like, isn't that so fun? Like going to a park, oh, like summer missions, woo. And then summer comes.
Flowers.
Yeah.
The wisteria.
Oh, so fun. And then summer comes around and it's hot
Ugh.
and it's awful. Like,
Yeah.
I can't stand it. The heat, I
Yeah.
don't know if anyone at home feels like this. The heat brings out the worst in me.
In
it like,
people.
brings out my rage.
Yeah.
It brings out my everything. Anyway, but at the same time, there are like tons of fun things about summer too.
Yeah.
This is like a really like surface level example of what I'm trying to say, which is that like there like are really good things in every season, but there can also be really bad things in every season too.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know. I think for sure there are times where it just is hard, yes or yes, and like not much feels good. But I think that when you do look back on it, you'll see some like goodness in there somewhere too, you know? At least I hope. And like that's I think what also God like desires for us too, you know?
Yeah.
Is for us to look back on really difficult times and be able to still see goodness, you know? And his faithfulness and his love through others, and like I don't know, it's yeah, I guess maybe I do fully agree with this statement. I don't know. I'm like changing my mind as I talk about it. Because for sure there is goodness in everything, I think. Yeah. So I think, I don't know how much advice I can give, to be honest. Because I think I literally just came out of a really difficult season. So maybe you're like, what do you mean? I feel like you would have more things to say or more advice to give. But like I said, when I kind of came out of a really difficult season, of like a real like season of loss and of grief and of just sadness, to be honest with you. Like it honestly, the only like thing that I could say that changed or that God like did was like God. Like I don't know how to explain it. It's just like I didn't really feel like I did anything to like spark that change. Maybe you can say, yeah, you did this and you were faithful in the storm and yeah, okay. But like, I don't know. I do really believe in some ways that like God is just faithful and that's all. That's all. Does that make sense? I hope I'm making sense because I feel like I'm being a bit like, it's also late. So I'm like trying to like bring my thoughts here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
I
Yeah.
think also, as you don't have to like fully understand it.
Yeah.
I think what is cool about you, and I think of somebody else that I've like been walking with through a really difficult season, and the thing that has impressed me about both of you is like the capacity to be resilient. And not everybody has that. Not all Christians have that, especially. We're like, oh my gosh, why do I have to suffer? God said it was going to be easy. He never said that, you know? And the capacity to be resilient is something that brings this authority that is not just an authority from years in faith or years in a sacrificial lifestyle or, I don't know, your age or your education. Authority like that comes through like going through fire, you know? So I don't think it's about you like knowing what you mean or like being able to understand and give out what you want to say. I think that will come, you know,
Yeah.
and like also in the right moment and whatever, as you like also digest this fully.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like the capacity to love that you have and the capacity to walk people through difficulty because you've been resilient. I know that always that sounds bad, you know, we're like, oh, don't worry, God will use this to help others later. And we're like,
rather not.
you know?
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily what I mean, but I mean
get
like
it.
I've been inspired by your resilience and it's helped me in much smaller, much less intense situations that I've gone through and thought, well, if Abby can face that and still be like fighting for God, okay, I can too, you know? So I see different people around me who walk through difficult seasons with faithfulness, with mistakes and issues and whatever. I really wanted to say issues, but the came out first. So it really sounded like I want to cuss. But I'm not trying to cuss on this podcast. Issues. But like the resilience is what also brings this authority, you know? Because even you saying the only thing that changed for me was God. Like it's just God being God. And it's just that I know God and I have God and that's it, you know? And it's like, but that's all that matters, you know? So God will give you the words eventually. But for me, that doesn't matter because when you speak, there's an authority behind it because you know what you're talking about, you know? Even if you don't know, there's something here that knows. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm touching my heart for those that are listening. It's not only in the mind, it's in the heart.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
No, yeah, of course. I don't know. I think it's really common that we don't like the season we're in, though, as well. You know, like it's generally not what we were hoping for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
100%.
And also,
expectations are a big thing, a big issue, to be honest.
Yeah, expectations and also comparison with other people.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh, that's a bad one.
Yeah.
That's a really bad one.
I think living in community, especially, like
Yeah.
that's so difficult because, again, that's where you see your season and you see the other person. It's like the parable of the talents, and you're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like, we're all. I think I'm taller than him, you know? Yet I get less talents than he does. Why? You know?
We can be in like really beautiful seasons that we longed for and yet still be like,
literally.
it's not right. It's
Isn't
not
that
enough.
crazy?
Yeah.
That's so like sad, honestly.
Yeah.
Like,
I
as
see it a
humans.
lot when Julie and I do weddings, you know, because you're like with this couple or with these people going towards like the best day of their whole life, as everybody says, the like day you're going to remember forever and blah, blah, blah. And for like 6 months to a year before the wedding, they become totally different people because they're so stressed.
Yeah.
And it's like, but this is supposed to be like the season that you were enjoying, you know, and it's not that, again, seasons aren't based on circumstance. So it's not like because you're getting married, you're in a season, but I'm just saying like you're in a moment of something you really enjoy and yet stress comes to steal that or finances or so many things, you know? So it's crazy how we can be doing the thing that we actually love to do or be in the season that we love to be in. And yet we're still like, it's not what I want.
Yeah. Grass is always greener. I think that's a real.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, that's something I struggle with a lot. So I'm always like, oh, but what if I was there?
Yeah.
Or what if this was different? Like, I don't know. Then my life would be perfect. It's like, good Lord. It just doesn't work that way, you know? And it's like, you think at some point I would learn that, but
but no.
it never works.
But it's that thing of like always looking like back. And you're like, oh,
nostalgia.
like, oh, that was a great season.
Yeah.
Let's go back to that, you know? Or like, you know, it's a lot easier to see it when you're on the other side as well. So yes, the grass is greener on the other side, but it's a lot easier and better for me to say it when I'm on the other side.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
now that you've gone through that season, you're able to like look back at it and be like, it was awful.
Yeah.
but, you know.
Yeah.
But when you were there, you weren't
for
even
sure,
able to
no.
say the but. You
And
were like,
also
but
that's
what?
why
I don't
was
want
like
that.
a little bit hesitant to say that, because I really do understand that feeling.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want anyone listening to be like, but I'm in such a hard season and there
Yeah.
isn't any goodness, because I remember feeling like that, you know?
Yeah.
And that is in some ways like really valid. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's, you also need to feel that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, yeah, that,
Yeah.
that feels really real when you're there.
Yeah,
you know?
100%.
But it's true what you say. Then when
Yeah.
you look back, you're like, oh shoot, you know?
There was that, yeah.
There was. You know?
And I think that's just because God, like what you were saying, because God
Yeah.
is good. Like, and ultimately, if God is there, which God is always there,
Yeah.
then there is goodness. But we just have to dig deep to actually find it.
Yeah.
Not that I'm walking out on this, but I think in a piece of advice that I would give is, I think many times, like, and not to like go against what you were saying, because I think it's important to look at the bright side, right? And be like, try to focus on the good. Like, try to, like, you know, even the Bible says, like, you know, set your mind on things
Things that are
above, you know,
pure,
like things
yeah.
that are great,
Yeah.
you know, and not bad, you know, like, it's important for us to think positive and focus on the good when we're surrounded by so much bad, and to not just add on to that. But at the same time, I think it's also like a way to, not to like avoid that, but a way to be able to deal with it better for the next time that things come around, you know, is to actually go deeper and closer with God when it comes to like wisdom and maturity. And the reason I say that is because I always think of Paul when he was in prison, you know, and like I have no idea like how much he endured, but I know that that must have been an awful time for him, you know. And yet like that's never come through the scriptures. You never like really hear that hardship. Like what you actually hear is like the joy, how close he felt to God, and how much he continued to worship him and sing to him, and you know, all these different things. But you knew like the conditions that he was in, but the conditions like didn't define that. And I think it wasn't because he wasn't feeling heavy, it wasn't because he wasn't being punished. He was probably being beat. I don't know like his circumstances. I went to the cell. It was small, but like I don't know the circumstances that they kept him in. So that wasn't a reality that was deniable. Like it was a fact, and he did go through that. However, I think because of the fact that he was focusing and growing and was in a stage in his maturity and his wisdom in his relationship with God, that how he focused on it, like what he focused on, how he set his mind on things above, was very different. And it's what helped him through that situation, through that season, you know. You know, Proverbs just talks a bunch about wisdom and how like important wisdom is and stuff. And I think many times we think wisdom is important for when we're making big decisions, or when we're leading people, or, you know, for like the sort of the bigger decisions. But what about like wisdom in the middle of seasons, of like also like how I cope with the seasons, how I handle my life, how I move about certain things, you know. And yeah, like if I'm pushing towards that, like it's like maybe I don't have the energy to, like, you know, again, like everything is like really pushing me down. But, and again, I'm not saying this from a point of experience, as I said before. Like, I don't know that I'm walking in that at all, or that I have. But I think, like, if I think biblically of like how we can face the situation of going through a difficult time, because again, difficult times will keep coming, because we live in a fallen world, full stop, you know, like, and so we will keep facing bad things, and they're going to come many times, like out of nowhere. Like, I think I'm going through a lot of those things right now where like, it's just like, oh, okay, like I was not expecting that, you know, like where did that come from, you know? And it's things that I've never experienced before as well. So it's just like, oh, I wasn't prepared for this. But God's been working in my life, and God has worked in my life. And, you know, like, if I look back, yeah, like, God's done all these different things. So, sure, this is really difficult. And what I'm going through is awful. But like I don't have, I'm not empty. I don't not have any tools, you know, like I've walked to this point. So like I'm actually sitting on a lot, you know. And I think also another thing that is always really encouraging is that God says that he like doesn't let us go through anything that we can't endure, and that he's not going to be with us for, you know. And I think no matter how difficult the circumstance that I'm going through is, I like not just to know that God is with me, but to know that like I can do it. I don't know, there's that tiny voice that says like it's going to be okay. Maybe it's not much.
Yeah.
But like actually, like I don't know, for me, I think right now it's like okay. It's what I need maybe.
Yeah, I think like the Psalms are also really key for that, where you see David who at the same time feels all of his emotions, all of his frustration, anger, negativity, like the world is ending and I'll never overcome this difficulty that is in my life, to like the next, like being Salah, and then the next verse being like, but I'll worship you, you know?
Yeah.
So there's tools for like how we can walk in the opposite spirit in worship and thanksgiving and remembrance and different things. And I think there's a verse that talks about how David commanded his soul to like worship the Lord, you know? And I feel like that often, especially in the last few months, like every time we have worship, I feel like I need to pull myself. Like I have this sense of like pulling my soul to like go and worship God, you know? Not because I don't love God and I don't want to worship him, but because maybe I'm tired or I'm distracted or I'm feeling heavy from different things or whatever. So I think both are really key, that we need to feel what we need to feel and be like aware of our circumstances, and like we get caught under the heaviness of life, but there is a capacity to overcome it, all in the same like chapter of the Psalms, you know, like in the exact same thing, it's there.
That's true.
But you guys said, I think you said, Abby, like the grass is always greener on the other side, and there's a very cheesy phrase, you guys have heard it, I'm so sorry, but it says the grass is greener where I water it. But obviously, like, I water, like, dead grass or dry grass in the hopes that it will turn green, you know? How, though, do I, like, enjoy my dry grass before it turns green? Because we're talking about, like, not only being in a difficult season, waiting for a good season, but simply being in a season while you prepare for the next one, you know? Because maybe God doesn't speak it to you. Maybe you have an idea of what's coming. I don't know. But how do I how do I enjoy and like live faithfully in this one, doing what God is asking me to, while also at the same time preparing for what's ahead? The visionary, Juli, let's hear it. You're always more visionary.
I always think of plants.
I know.
I think it's plants. For me, it's with plants. Like, you'll have a plant that's dying, and suddenly, like, you're like, why should I keep watering it, whatever? And I don't know if you've ever had, like, a really droopy, sad-looking plant.
Yes.
And then suddenly you start, you were like, why am I still watering this? And then suddenly you get, like, this shoot that is, like, absolutely green and beautiful. And you're like, oh, my word, this is amazing. And you've had a lot of those.
Yeah, I know.
You've had a lot of those.
They're so cute. Oh, my gosh.
But, like, your plants, like,
I have a plant that has flowers on it. I didn't know it had flowers.
Oh. Yeah.
It's flowering.
But I remember that there was a time when, like, you were looking at them and like, I'm going to throw them away. I'm going to just, you know. You got to the point where you were like, I'm going to get rid of these, you know. But you were, like, still hopeful, you know, and, like, still...
Yeah.
So I don't know if I can say that it's, like, how I can find joy. But it's, like... I think, because, again, joy is a choice. So it's more, like, the joy and the hope together of, like, there will be a moment where this is going to sprout, and I'm going to be so excited for that moment, you know?
It's like the tension of living in the now and also what's coming.
So.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Maybe we already talked about this, but it just was one of my questions, so I don't miss it. But because we've been here for a little while, I have one last question for us.
Yeah.
One last one, which is in some ways something you said about the two like most important commandments, one being to love God and two being to love others. We've talked a lot about our season and how we know what our season is. But what if like I'm in a season to laugh and somebody next to me is in a season to mourn, you know?
Oh,
and
that's difficult.
I mean, obviously we live in community, so we've made that clear to you guys in every single episode. So that's like not a surprise. So we're with a lot of people all the time who are in very different seasons. And I've seen myself and also others go through seasons that like I'm in a more challenging season and people really misunderstand me, and that can be really painful, can bring rejection, different things like that, can bring frustration for them, for me, for the nations, whatever. But like, how do we support the person who's in the opposite spirit of me? Like, how do I love a person who's in a totally different moment, good or bad, you know? Oh.
No, I don't have.
Oh.
Like, I was more like, I don't know. Tell
Also
me.
because, like, as Abby...
Ask ChatGPT.
Yeah.
No! No! Ask the Lord, the Holy Spirit. My Lord, you too. I'm going to kick you out.
I didn't say
I don't
it.
have capacity. Also because, as Abby foreshadowed in the beginning... I shouldn't sit like this, sorry. As Abby foreshadowed in the beginning, it says in Romans...
Sorry.
Laugh with those who laugh, mourn with those who mourn, you know? So, like, how do you laugh and mourn at the same time? Like, I want to laugh with you, but I'm mourning. You know what I mean?
That's a good question, Madison.
I think it's really difficult, for sure. But if I can narrow it to two things, and this is not the final answer, okay? Like, it's just my perspective.
Yeah.
If I can narrow it to, like, two things that I think it's important to kind of see is, like, who we're talking about, as in, like, okay, for example, is this my family, right? And, like, we're told to, like, honor our parents, you know, but also, like, we were giving siblings, so, like, we should also, like, love them as well and honor them too, you know?
I guess.
You know? Maybe. So, like, okay, maybe they're going through, like, a great season. My sister is just a new mum, you know? My other sister just... like, as the couple, they finally got so many, like, milestones that they managed to hit, you know? And yeah, like, I feel like I'm going through, like, rock bottom in many ways, you know? But being with them because of, like, also knowing who they are in my life as well. And I think that also is, like, okay, that is a different love, because we're supposed to love everyone, yeah, but, like, I think there's also different loves. And I think also, so that's one, like, your relationship with those people, right? Like, is it like your colleague at work? Because I think that also defines also, like, to what extent or to what level, you know? Like, is it a moment that you have to, like, laugh with them and cry with them, or is it a follow-up, you know? Because it's easy to, like, put on a good smile for, like, 2 hours for a baby shower. Do you know what I mean? But there's a difference between, like, having to put a smile and be strong for somebody who's going through a difficult situation and having to be with them in that, you know? So I think one point is relationship. What is your relationship with them? Because I think that will also talk about, like, whether it's momentary or something that's more prolonged. And the other thing as well, it's status is the wrong word, but, like, what is your role in that person's life as well? Because I think sometimes we become God, or we put ourselves in this position of being God, and it's like, oh, I have to be strong for this person. But actually, they're your peer, they're your equal. So you just have to, like, laugh with them and cry with them, just as the passage says. But it doesn't say remain in that laughter with them through their laughter. It doesn't say remain in that mourning with them through their mourning, you know? But if it's their leader, so in your case, for example, where she's your discipler, like, she's also, like, taking a role in your life of, like, carrying you for, like, as a commitment, you know? So it's not just about, like, today, like enjoying with you because you got a donation. It's also, like, being with you in that season as well and carrying you, you know, because there is also an authority that, like, you also hold. So I think that's also very important to know what is your relation as well. So I don't know that it's down to that, but I think those are my two
It's great.
things.
It's great. And I think it makes a lot of sense also, like, it's not about us. Like, my life is not about me.
Yeah.
And of course, like I know you so well, so I know, like, the good moments and the bad, but I think I've also seen you be so sacrificial with people, where you're able to laugh with them when you're, especially with your sisters in this time, like, where you're able to enjoy with them and laugh with them, but I know what's going on in a deeper point of your life. So I think it's, like, also about sacrificing what you're processing to love the person next to you, you know? Yeah. And I think you model that in a lot of your relationships. It's really cool.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So anyway, were you gonna say? You raised your mic.
I did raise it.
Yeah.
You raise me
Ah.
up
So I can stand on mountains. You raise.
Anyway,
I clearly did wrong there.
yeah.
Disappointed her.
I'm always scared we're gonna get like copyrighted in case we sing for a little too long.
Oh.
Like that. Do you remember at Christmas time when I just like flat out played a Christmas song?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Did we get copyrighted?
Christmas. I don't think so.
Oh.
Praise the Lord, but I just fully
You
played
just
it.
confessed publicly. Like now YouTube is gonna hunt us down.
But
You
I think
so?
there's a difference
No.
when you play it because you're consuming it than when you like put it over
No,
because
I don't think so.
no, has the law changed? ChatGPT?
Wait,
So-
shut up. Go back to what you were saying.
Oh yeah, my point.
We've been here a long time. It's a long podcast.
Yeah, sorry. Okay.
She forgot.
What's the question? It's how to, right?
Yeah.
I think what you said is really important. Of like, I don't remember how you worded it, but what I was thinking, and then you said it. I was like, okay.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's good. That like we also need to like let go of ourselves sometimes, you know, and also humble ourselves in some ways.
Yeah.
Of like, not everything is about me all the time, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And often in like difficult seasons, that's what it feels like. Just because you're in a lot of pain and you're struggling, and so it's like sometimes hard to see people like living their best life when you're there, like, you know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a really like hard pill to swallow. But there are people in different seasons than you, and that's okay. You know,
Mm.
that doesn't mean that they're bad or that they hate you or that I don't know that
Yeah.
you're doing something wrong or I don't know. Like I think there's a time for everything under the sun. But I think we do need to like. And I also really needed to like. There was many moments where I was like, I don't want to be happy. But the person beside me is celebrating a donation or is like, I don't know, like had something amazing happen to them. I don't know. And of course, there's like moments where it's like you have that tinge of like, ow, you know. But yeah, you gotta swallow the pill that it's not always. Like you don't also need to like put that on someone else, you know. And that's how you love people, is
Yeah.
to be with them in those moments, you know, like the verse says. So I think there's a lot of elements because there's like a lot of different perspectives that there could be, you know, because if you're in a difficult season but you're with someone who's in, or if you're in mourning and you're with someone who's in joy, then you need to like let go of yourself, like humble yourself and take yourself out of the center to enjoy with this person. And to be honest, a lot of times in those moments, that's so like life-giving as well. There is always that tinge that's like, I wish that was me, to be honest. But at the same time, you do really get to like be with that person in that joy. And it's like, even though it's not it's not yours, so you still get to be a part of it.
Yeah.
It's actually really beautiful.
Yeah.
And then there is the other side where it's like if you're in a season of joy and the person beside you is in a season of mourning, like I think there was like, if I can be honest, there was like times where I like it was hard because I didn't like I wish that sometimes that maybe more people had been able to see past the like mourning, if that makes sense, or deeper into the mourning. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like I oftentimes it was like on the outside I was looking a certain way, but on the inside it was just that because I was in a lot of pain, you know. And it's great that if you're in a season of joy, and I'm very happy for you, but also sometimes I can't always meet you at that place, you know. So I think like my advice in case you have someone in your life who is in like a difficult season and isn't doing very well or is struggling or is like I don't know, like just in a difficult season, like try to see past like maybe the hardships that are in front of them. Does that make sense? Or like the ugliness that seems to come out, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think most of the time it's just that there's something deeper that is you're in pain, you know? And try to see that person for like who they are, Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Am I making sense?
Yeah, you are.
I think that would be my advice in case you are like wanting to support someone who is in a difficult season.
Yeah.
To be like, okay, I see that you're in the season now, that you're in this desert now, but like you're not made for desert, you know?
Yeah.
Like speak
Like,
truth into them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, love them past it.
Yeah.
With sensitivity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
I think when I've been in seasons of that were more difficult, like, I don't know, seasons of mourning or weeping, whatever, and somebody wept with me,
Yeah.
like, it was one of the most loving things I've ever felt, like, to be so understood
Yeah.
and, like, met in that place.
Yeah.
Also, when people meet me in my joy, but that's easy sometimes,
Yeah.
you know, or, like, you can make it superficial.
Yeah.
But for somebody to meet you with, like, also God's compassion in a place of such vulnerability and such, like, darkness,
Yeah.
it's really powerful.
Yeah.
And it like becomes this like beacon, like somebody's with me.
Yeah, you're not alone. That's like all you want in those moments.
And you don't even necessarily want to get through the season like you do.
Yeah.
But in that moment, it's like, I just don't want to be alone in it. And that person that like looks in your eyes and cries with you, and it's like, it's really life-changing. And so I think because I've experienced that, like with others, I so want to be that for people. You know what I mean? I think also because I'm called to be a part of like healing and freedom for people, that I have that in my like DNA. But at the same time, like, I don't want to say I love walking with people through difficulty, because that sounds really like sadistic or something, like really evil. But at the same time, like, I want to be a person who can meet somebody in their darkness, even if I'm in joy, but like in that moment, like you're saying, and maybe sometimes longer than a moment depending on the relationship, but to meet somebody in that place and like come on their level and be just in the boat with them while the storm is going crazy, holding their hand and being like, it's God's with us. It's okay. It's like, I don't know, it's something really powerful that also deepens relationships. It brings something really beautiful. It shows a whole different kind of facet of God. And I know I've seen that in my life a lot with a lot of people around me. I've been very blessed by people around me. So, anyway, I'm pretty sure I've been here for like an hour and a half. Estelle held numbers to me like a long time ago. So it's been an hour and 20 minutes. 2 minutes. Oh, we're better than we thought. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
Any final like words?
Okay, yeah. One last thing.
Don't say it.
No, I'm not gonna say it,
Okay.
but you put it in my mind. No. It's like, no, I don't want to get sciencey because I'm not a science person, but at the same time I do love how God works in different ways, and you know, whatever. And like, so it's so much easier to meet people when they're in a high, because the dopamine effect, and you know,
Whoa, science words.
woo, like and like also the adrenaline, right, that it brings, right? And so it's easy like to have that high and like to have that peak, but invert that and the low can also be really, really low. But I think that what you're talking about, this beautiful aspect of like being able to meet with somebody and be with them in that, create something that's a lot more powerful and deeper at times, not to disregard the other one, but because you have to like climb up and create a peak. And so you now both are feeling it, and so you're feeling that weight, or you're feeling that heaviness, you know, together. And so you really like see like down to the other mile, but like you have to kind of like go up. But it's so cool though, because like when you do it like with love, and when you do it like well, and you know, whatever, then you can actually like, you know, you're gonna love this, but you know, like when you watch like the golden buzzer moments, you know, like, and you see all like the difficulty stories and like the sad stories and like, you know, whatever, like in a sense it's something that like kind of like empowers you and gives you that courage in a sense, you know. And so working with adrenaline, or like dopamine in a sense, but like in a way where like it's backwards, where you're actually trying to meet somebody. And I think that's also like the heart like of compassion that God has. And like when we grow in that compassion, where we can actually like flip things around, where we can meet people in their lows, but we can be with them in order to help them come out from that and drag them out and like see to the other side. It's like a pursuit and push for a natural developing and like cause of that dopamine and adrenaline that is actually long lasting, rather than just a quick effect, you know. And I think that's why sometimes that's so much more powerful in a sense. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. I was just thinking about that when you were
Yeah,
saying.
it's true.
But anyways,
But I just want to say, because we're talking about how beautiful it is to like walk with people through that. But at the same time, like, I think, Abby, you were sharing like that internally you were going through something really painful, and externally it probably looked really messy, ugly. Like, not to like say
No,
ugly, but
it's true. Yeah.
and I feel like there's so many times that we are put off by the superficial. Like
Yeah.
somebody has a bad attitude, or I perceive they have a bad attitude, or their eyebrow flicked the wrong way, and I'm like, and I judge them. And actually underneath all of that is pain, you know? So
For sure.
I hear what you're saying and I agree, but I just want to encourage anybody who is like, yes, like, wow, like what could it have been like to not been a disciple who fell asleep while Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, whatever. Like, it's also means enduring like arrows also at you, you know what I mean? Also like the frustration of people's bad attitudes, like also people being unreliable, being lazy, like it's also like dealing with all those superficial things that come out as a defense mechanism to protect the difficulty that's happening inside. So it's like, yes, I want to meet them in their pain, but a lot of times people want to be met in their pain, but also you have to like go through 75 hoops and layers and trick doors and padlocks in order
They're
to
like
get there.
urchins.
And that's normal. We all are. It's like you're most vulnerable, you know? And if somebody's going to meet you there, you have to like, they have to be proven like trustworthy to get there, you know? So I don't know, like I think also loving people in their difficult season is not only like, oh, Abby shared that she's been in a difficult season, or so have you, so I'm going to meet you in that place. But it also means enduring when you're mean to me. When you reject me, when you, I don't know, snap at me. And it doesn't mean that we become a doormat, but I think it also is like enduring difficult moments as well, you know? So all fun things, you know, super fun things. And we also have joy with people who have joy, and we party with them. I don't know, I wanted to like finish with something. We celebrate, like even if there's no reason to. So you know what? Life is good. I don't know. This podcast has been really fun, I think. I don't know. It's been enlightening.
It definitely has.
I hope you guys have enjoyed. We're gonna finish here because 1, it's been long, and 2, it's late, and there's crazy stuff happening outside. You never hear it, but we always talk about it.
It's a bin. I checked it.
Nice. But thank you guys so much for listening or watching. It's always a joy to do this with you. So please put comments in or DM us if you want to. Like, we want this to be interactive. We want this to be like you're here with us. So thanks for listening. Thanks, ladies, for being here. Thanks, Estelle, for the idea and for recording this whole time. That's it. We love you. See you soon. Bye.